Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What If. Today we have 2016 edition, and 2016 is similar to, I want to say, 2012. Well, I mean, 2011 somewhat, but 2012 kind of, if they win in overtime more than Phoenix, then they go on a run. I feel like that's something similar to what, now that I've reviewed 2016 and looked back, I think it's possible. So in round one, Chicago plays the St. Louis Blues for the second time in 3 years. They played them in 2014, and in real life, they won in 6. In the What If, they swept them. So that's back when they won the 2014 Cup in What If. They're currently on a 4-cup winning streak and have won 5 in the past 7 years of doing What If. So 2016 is a big year to see if they can continue the dynasty. So in Game 1, they lose 1-0 in overtime. Well, we obviously changed that. We're going to say, who's a good player? We're going to say Teuvo Teravainen gets the winner in Game 1. As he became a prominent, he started to become a more prominent player. He started to break out of his shell. Basically, he started his transformation in the 2015 playoffs into what he would become in Carolina, and this season continued it because he'd be gone after this year with Bickle. So yeah, and then they win Game 2 3-2 in real time. So these two games are in St. Louis. Chicago was the 3rd seed in Central. St. Louis was the 2nd seed. Similar, literally exactly the same as 2014. Now they lose Game 3 at home, then 3-2, and Game 4 at home 4-3. So no one has won at home ice. Then they go to St. Louis. Patrick Kane gets the OT winner for a 4-3 OT winner, and then they win 6-3 in Game 6 at home, and then they don't need Game 7. Brouwer never gets the winner, and I'm not devastated because that's like we're at the point now where I'm old enough that I knew what was happening. Like I wasn't like 2011. It wasn't like 2012. It wasn't like 2009. It wasn't like 2014 even. I was over the age of 10. I knew that losing had to happen. So yeah, this game no longer exists. Chicago wins the series in 6. Now round 2, they would go on to play the Dallas Stars, who in this it's kind of completely reversed from what Dallas is known as now. Back here, Dallas could score at will. Dallas, I'm pretty sure, had the top offense in the league that year. They had one problem, and that was the net. Kari Lehtinen and Antti Niemi were their goalies, and if you listen to the hockey guy talk about them, he knew, even though they were the 1st seed in the West this year, they were not doing nothing. So they beat Minnesota in round 1 and 6. But if St. Louis could light them up like they did in round 2, imagine what Chicago can do to them. Because Chicago is essentially a less physical, more skilled version of Dallas. And that's why I think the series is over in 4 or 5 games. For Dallas' sake, I'm going to say the Hawks win in 5. Or wins in 5. So yeah, just like that, Dallas is out, and the Hawks move on to round 3 for it's the 8th straight year. And on the other side of the West, Nashville, who was a wild card 1, gets eliminated by San Jose, and for the third time, the Hawks meet San Jose in the conference final. And lo and behold, it's still basically the exact same team. And Hawks, it really wasn't hard for me to think that San Jose had some magic in them this year, but remember, it's still Chicago. Chicago, at this point, this is one of their better teams that I think didn't win the Cup. This might have been their best team that didn't win the Cup in that span. Maybe 2014 could compete for that, but definitely not 2011. 2009, no. 2009 was lightning in a bottle, literally. And 2009, no. 2011, they were the 8th seed, no. 2014, they were the 4th in the Central, yet 5th in the standings for the conference, because that's how good the Central was that year. So no. Then you have 2014. They were basically the exact same team with a bit more physicality and a bit more of everything, and that they just couldn't beat LA with. But in this timeline, they do. And then 2016, they bring in some veterans. They brought back Ladd, who played excellent. Ladd might have been one of the greatest acquisitions they made at the deadline in a while. He had like 12 points in the final 18 games. He had 8 goals. Fantastic. And then in the playoffs, he kind of went dry. He scored a big goal in Game 6 I think it might have been the winner. It might have been it was either the winner or the goal that started off the amount of goals they would score. But yeah. So against San Jose, Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, still getting older. They're not what they were. Vlasic is not what he was. Coach Shore, Pavelski, and Hurdle are pretty much the ones leading the charge at this point. And with Taves, Kane, Hossa, Keith, Seabrook, still Hossa's getting older, but he had a good playoff this year. Like compared to 2015, he had a bounce back in 2016. So for that reason, I'm going to say that Chicago wins the series in 6. And also in net, they had Martin Jones, who had a good... Martin Jones was pretty good in the playoffs. Sorry about that. So yeah, Martin Jones is pretty good in the playoffs this year. But compared to Crawford was also... If you look at these scores, he basically has a shutout here. He did have a shutout here in What If. Only 3 goals, 2 goals, 3 goals, not 4 goals, 3 goals, 3 goals. He didn't allow more than 3 goals in one game this. And then against Dallas, although they could probably score and light him up a bit, Chicago can light him up more. And against San Jose, they're a mixture of both, yet they're slower. And the Hawks are very fast. They're a fast team at this point. They're still young. They're not in their mid-30s like they are now, like Taves and Kane. But the Kane, Taves are still in their 20s. And they're coming off, Taves and Kane got signed massive contracts in the offseason that year. So that also shows that the motivation to prove is also there, that they can win with these contracts, and they still haven't. No team has ever won with a double-digit million contract in history just so far. That could change soon because there's a lot of players now that get a lot over 10. There's usually at least one player on each team that's over 10 million, but we'll see. So yeah, that's reasoning enough for why Chicago beat San Jose in 6. Also, just knowing them, they beat him twice. They're going to beat him again. Also, Peter DeBoer was coach. I can just keep listing off reasons if I had to. So in the final, the Hawks have a rematch from 2009 against the Pittsburgh Penguins, in which Pittsburgh in the regular season had 1 more point than them. They were second in their division. To get there, they beat the Rangers, the Capitals, and the Lightning, so very good. And they have home ice. Now, in Game 1, I think Pittsburgh comes out, and they win 4-2. And I feel like they win Game 1 no matter what. Now, Game 2, I think it's a closer affair. I think Chicago wins this one 5-4. Just thinking in my head how this series could play out. I think Chicago wins this one 5-4. Kane has a big game. Taves has 3 assists. That's just my guess. And I think Trevor Van Reems gets the winner. He gets the 5th goal to win the game here. Now going back to Chicago, I think that knowing this is the final that we all wanted to see in this time period, I feel that maybe the series could go the distance. So Chicago, I'm going to say, wins Game 3 by a score of 3-1. Because remember, Matt Murray was also beasting this playoffs. Pittsburgh has Matt Murray in net, and Fleury was injured for most of it, and Fleury never played that playoff. He was out because of concussions, I believe. There was a point where he came in he could play as backup, but he never became the starter because Matt Murray was doing so good. And so yeah, the Matt Murray legend is still just there. So the series is 2-1 in favor of Chicago. Go to Game 4, and I think Pittsburgh comes out, and they win 6-2. Crosby and Malkin put out a performance. You have the young guys like Getzel wasn't there yet, but Connor Sheary had a good playoff that year. Of other guys, Letang is still there, and tie the series at 2, heading back to Pittsburgh. And then in Game 5, Pittsburgh wins again. They win by a score of 2-1. So they're now up 3-2 against Chicago, who comes home in Game 6. And you know what? They win. They win by a score of 4-3 in overtime to force a Game 7 in Pittsburgh. However, how good Matt Murray was in these playoffs, I think defines a lot of how good Pittsburgh was, and that's why in Game 7, Chicago can't beat them. They lose 2-0. They don't get their 5th Stanley Cup in a row. Their streak ends here as they lose in the final. And they lose to Pittsburgh for 2 out of both times. And there you go. That's my what-if thing. That's my what-if thinking. I don't think Chicago would have beat Pittsburgh again this year. Pittsburgh was just... There were some years that Pittsburgh was just destined to win. 2016 was one. 2017 was not. I think that was a complete fluke, to be honest. But 2016, Pittsburgh was just the team of destiny. Crosby was the Conn Smythe winner. Actually, I think it would definitely be Crosby since the series goes 7. But Matt Murray with a shutout Matt Murray with the performances here, and here. Maybe earn him a Conn Smythe, but is letting in these 2 games possibly, and then this one kind of degraded. I don't know. But I think Crosby still went to the Conn Smythe. The Hawks live on as one of the greatest dynasties the NHL had ever seen, and the best dynasty the NHL has seen in the Cap era. And yeah, that's kind of what happened in 2016, I think. But the show is not over. There are still 2 more playoffs that we have to go over with 2017 and 2020. So come back soon for that. 2017 probably be up tomorrow, and 2020 we'll see in the near future. Probably just be the day after, just so we can finish up this what if overtime series, and then maybe we'll get into some other what ifs, as hockey is still a couple months away. Hawk season doesn't start until October 12th, but anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching. Leave your comment down below. Do you think Chicago would have beat Dallas, San Jose, Pittsburgh? Do you think they could have won 5 cups in a row? Do you think they could have won 8 cups in a row? They ain't the 90s Chicago Bulls. I wasn't around for that, but believe me, there's memorabilia everywhere in Chicago. The 90s Bulls. I have stuff on my walls even, and I wasn't even alive. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I shall see you guys in the next one. Have a good day. Goodbye.